I would like to invite Dr. Laxmi Menon, ma'am. And the topic she will be taking is minimize the consumption of high-fat sugar, salt, and ultra-processed foods. Over to you, ma'am. Please allow me to share the screen.
Sure. Thank you. Yes, a very good evening to everyone present here. I'm here to very briefly go over the guideline 15 and also look at a few pointers which may come as points of concern as far as guideline 15 is concerned. It comes as a right time when the WHO report of 2023 has mentioned that ultra-processed foods are forecasted to be a large part of the GDP in India. So this guideline comes at a very right time. Let's move to the next, please. Yeah, I've done a very quick comparison of how over the decade the guideline about the processed foods has come over. And as we can see, the wordings of the guidelines are, of course, different. The rationale is now shifted more towards the terminology ultra-processed foods. The operational definitions, however, as someone had mentioned earlier, need to define added sugar, salt, high fat. Those definitions do feature in this particular guideline as HFSS foods. And the number of terminologies, as we compare with 2011, have certainly been much higher. There has been an introduction of classification of the foods. There's been the use of terms like sugar, added sugar, naturally occurring simple sugar, and substitutes, as well as the different levels of processing has also come into play. Though some of the terms earlier, like instant, street, and fast foods, still remain. Next, please. The impact of consumption, this is something which is interesting because as general as the guideline of 2011 may seem, here the 2024 guidelines does talk a little more about, but however, it mentions the fact that macronutrients and micronutrients may be... Can I continue? Yeah, that macro and micronutrients may be at stake, especially essential amino acids, vitamins, minerals, etc. And there are certain generalized statements again, which talk of anemia, the lack of cognition, increased risk of NCDs, gut microbiota, and these terminologies have also come in as far as the impact of consumption of these foods are concerned. So this is a difference from the earlier guidelines, but yet again, when we see this kind of jargon, how the consumer will respond to it and how us as nutritionists are going to handle the use of such jargon in this guideline is to be thought about. So also there is mention about the different nutrient intake levels. So there have been statements specifically about what is high fat, high sugar, which was earlier not there. Let's move to the next slide. So this is my humble attempt. Next slide, please. Shivanshi? Yeah, this is a humble but small attempt on behalf of the group of 7 members there in the WhatsApp group that this particular guideline does. Of course, it does bring a first of a kind attempt at categorizing the different foods, not merely on the basis of processing, as is already available, like the NOVA classification, but also on the basis of content. So there is a very large attempt that has been made. There has been an attempt to not use very innocuous words like the word junk food. Certainly the terms sugar substitutes, where just sugar alone, but sugar substitutes and added sugar, etc., have also been featured under the processed food section. There's also a pertinent point which I felt the need to raise, because this is usually something, this guideline has come under a lot of negative light. But there is a fact that mentions that the excessive use of ultra-processed foods should not be overshadowed by just the use of terminology like fortification and enrichment. So such initiatives if they are used to just mask the intakes of UPFs, then that can be a cause for concern. So this is a point that's been rightly raised. And another interesting fact is that this guideline does seem inclusive, as it seems to feature in certain other guidelines like Guideline 1, 9, and 16. However, just on a note, I'd like to add that a few points if not all, points that we can ponder about is the definition for the term HFSS foods. It includes the word etc., which is very vague and ambiguous. So that is something that needs to be very careful, because this is something that nutritionists are going to use as a footnote. So the word diet in HFSS foods, the word etc. may be a cause for more analysis. Another thing is, as my earlier speaker said, collaborations. So FSSAI does talk of high energy from fat or high fat foods and also high sugar foods, but there seems to be a slight lack of a sync as far as the ICMR and the FSSAI terminologies for HFSS goes. So that is again a point to ponder about. There are still many, but due to the lack of time, I will not be bringing them up here. However, let's just move to the next. I had a team member from the team who also raised the issue that since ultra-processed foods is being spoken of and HFSS is being spoken of, we should probably look at how health taxes and public health initiatives through health taxes can be, a source of light forward. So this, again, is a point to think about when the guidelines are being brought out. They are being brought out with a bang. So how can we look at points like public health initiatives from these particular guidelines? Next, please, very quickly. Yeah, these are just a few recommendations. I can leave these slides with the team. So research is required. Promotion for stricter laws are definitely required as far as the guidelines and implementing the guidelines is concerned. Nutrition education, getting it across finally to the user becomes very important. And of course, even an intervention, I feel, in terms of the unorganized and the food service sector has not really been discussed in this. So your street food vendors, your instant food tuck shops, etc., that has not really been discussed as far as processed food is concerned. But overall, I feel it is a great attempt by the ICMR-NIN, though there still needs to be a lot more gaps that need to be plugged before it is enforced. So thank you very much for giving me these 5 minutes of my time, and I hope I have been able to wrap up the topic. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you very much.